Welcome to Catalyst Conversations, the podcast where we spark powerful change in women's wealth. I'm Hadriana, a wealth coach, counselor, and strategist, and each week we dive into the conversations, strategies, and stories that help women confidently create the life they've always dreamed of. In this space, we bring together the wisdom of people from all walks of life who are ready to break free from the cycle of financial stress and build lasting wealth. From interviews with inspiring people, to deep dives into money mindset, to practical tips for achieving financial freedom, you'll find it all here. Together, we'll unlock the mindset, tools, and strategies that empower you to step into your financial power. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're a loyal listener, we're here to support your wealth journey. So grab your favorite bevy, settle in, and let's get started on transforming your relationship with money. This is Catalyst Conversations, igniting change in women's wealth. Let's spark the conversation. Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Catalyst Conversations. I'm always tickled pink with my guests, but it's hard for me to go pink, so I'm gonna let her go pink because I think she's as excited to be here as I am to have her. Welcome to the Catalyst Conversations podcast, Miss Cheyanne O'Driscoll. Hey.
I'm so excited to be here. I love everything you do, and this is just such a beautiful moment to share with you.
You know what? I'm going to dive right in because there's so much good stuff we're going to be kind of unpacking today. But I love to start with a saying, a phrase, a quote that really just moves you, it speaks to you. And I love this one. I'm going to tell you, here's Cheyanne's quote, phrase, whatever we're going to call it. It's win or learn. Everything is data. Okay, now that's a girl after my own heart. Like black and white, please, as much as possible. Cheyanne, what about these two very concise sentences really resonates with you?
So in my 20s, when I started having kids and I started doing some diving into myself, I quickly recognized perfectionism was one of my habits I leaned into. And I knew I had to develop an alternative mindset around it. And the alternative to that was a growth mindset, which meant that everything you come at, you can't be perfect at it. So it was either, yeah, it went well, or you're just further along the process of figuring out how to make it go well, which meant you were learning and you were collecting data. So that's been the key to everything I've approached since my mid-20s. And it makes life more of a game, right? It's just, you're just moving along the process, and however it goes, it's either you win or you learn along the way.
Yeah, and it takes some of the risk that a lot of us are so risk averse that it holds us back. But when you think of it as I'm gonna win or I'm gonna learn, then I feel like some of the weight kind of gets lifted, right?
Yeah, it's all win-win. You literally cannot lose because either you're getting more data so you can make a better informed decision. Sometimes it's data about yourself, sometimes it's data about the context you're in, but either way, you're winning, you're moving forward.
Yeah, now what are we doing with this data? Now, I have to share that I am a techie. So me and data are great friends. Me and data can sleep well together because data does not confuse data. Tell me what about data really kind of connects with you?
So, one of my deep dives, I recognize that our unconscious is a supercomputer. Every choice that we're making, every narrative that we have in our minds is based on the data we've collected. And sometimes we need new data, which means we need to push ourselves into new places and collect new information. And when you do that, even unconsciously, your mind starts to accumulate a new database. And that means you get to come at things from a new perspective. And when you have it conscious, it really helps sometimes to address some of those false narratives we have around approaching things and really sit down and question it logically and be like, I don't want to do this, but everything I'm seeing is telling me that's the direction I should go. So why do I have this hesitation?
Yeah, where is the resistance? What is causing that? And is it resistance to protect me? or is the resistance doing something else? And then we can address the resistance instead of just sitting there stuck. But I love the growth mindset. I love that approach to life. And I'm sure, I mean, you're a business owner, but I'm sure that that growth mindset expands into just about everything you do.
100%. I actually, the very first parenting book I ever read was Raising Happiness. And the core message in it was a growth mindset. And I had never encountered that concept before. And as soon as I recognized it, I went, this is how I want to raise my kids, and it's how I want to live myself. So I actually started with it as a parent. And then once I moved into the business world, I just rolled forward, and I didn't recognize that it was going to be such a asset in approaching my business. I'm like, sure, I can do this, whatever, win or learn, I'll just keep going at it. And it has become such an incredible asset to the way I approach business and the way I coach other people to approach business. But it actually started with me with parenting.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't think, well, I'll say this. A lot of us operate in silos like personal life, business life. But I think our biggest successes come when we are a whole person and we allow skills, values, ideas to kind of flow freely through all the different roles and hats that we wear. And in your case, when I asked Cheyanne to describe herself, which she doesn't like doing, let me just let me tell you. When I asked Cheyanne to describe herself, here's what she put, and very concise, just like the phrase that we started with: mom, full stop; marketer, full stop; community fangirl. And I love this last one. I mean, I'm a mom as well. I'm an entrepreneur. You're a marketer. I'm a coach. You are a community fangirl. Now, you have to tell me more. Tell me more.
I grew up as military brat, so I've lived all over Canada from Newfoundland to Yellowknife. And my mom is a Newfoundlander. She comes from a very small community. Community was always a core component of what I experienced growing up, the military community, the different cities that I moved into, and getting to know the community there. And it's such a beautiful way to build genuine, authentic connections and to have a sense of belonging. When I started moving into the culinary world, excuse me, I fell in love with local food, and it was the way they created community around their businesses. That this is, and the sense of connection you get when you're eating the food somebody else produces, or you're cooking the food and serving it to other people in your community. I genuinely think our quality of life improves when we have a connection to community. And when I decided to go into marketing, I wanted to serve the independent businesses so I could keep facilitating and supporting community. It was one of the places that, though I'm in the business world, I'm really doing it to increase the connection we all have with each other, with our communities, both geographically or in our industry. There's so much we miss out on when we don't have that sense of belonging. And when we move business relationships from purely transactional into relational, it brings so much more to our lives. So for me, community is about everything. It's the world I want my kids to grow up in, and it's the world that I was lucky enough to grow up into. And it doesn't take much to create it. We just need to lean into each other. So I'm a huge community fangirl. I think it's a beautiful thing that we can easily all tap into.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's interesting because like the city where I live just outside Toronto. Sometimes you just get overwhelmed with the number of big box stores that are around, that it's almost, well, not, I wouldn't even say almost. This making decisions on how you spend your money has to be intentional. Like it has to be something that you plan ahead, because the default is, let me go to this huge store. Nobody knows me, doesn't know my name, has no clue about anything about my life, but I can get everything I need really quickly and I don't get to ask a lot of questions. What do you see as the advantage? What does that connection create for the one who is the consumer, the one who is actually spending, and in some cases spending a little bit more than if they went to the big box?
One of my backgrounds is actually in museum studies. I've done a deep dive into the historical development around our industrial food system. I'm a nerd. I love information and I love studying and research. And when we started the really heavy industrialization of our food system in the 50s and the 40s, one of the main selling points was convenience. Women were now out of the house, they were in the workplace, people were busy, there's a lot going on. And an easy way to increase profits was to market based on convenience. This is when microwave dinners became developed and the cakes in a box became developed. And that continued on. And right now we have a culture, especially around food, but around a lot of our consumer choices, where convenience is top priority. Single mom of three, I totally get it. My time is limited, my energy is limited. And especially with food, we've lost so much of the process of cooking and dining together. And we are looking for quick and easy. So it's a conscious trade-off we get to choose to make. Right now, we have a cultural narrative that convenience is optimal, but a lot of us are looking for connection. We want to feel a sense of belonging and connection. We're looking for something a little deeper. We've been on this treadmill for quite a while, and we realize it never slows down. There is no such thing as finally getting to a place where we slow down. So if we're making all of our consumer choices based on convenience, what's the ROI at the end of it? We have more time to keep on that treadmill. When we decide to make consumer choices based on the higher value of connection and intentionality and voting with our dollar, the level of fulfillment you create in yourself, feeling like your value aligned is one of it. Walking into a store and knowing they know you, they know your kids, they know what you usually order, they notice if you haven't been there for a little while. That sense of belonging is something that's very difficult to create in our lives right now. We're so busy and you can't buy it. It
Yeah.
has to be, I always say, like, I would love to run shopping local campaigns. I have a local magazine I do, and I am not positioning convenience. That is not what I'm offering. I'm positioning connection and value alignment and fulfillment. For the extra couple of dollars, I don't need more stuff in my life. It's easy to get stuff. It's easy to get material. It's easy to fill up your house. I need more connection and I need more fulfillment in my life. And everyone I know that makes choices to shop local, that trade-off for the dollars is well worth it. It's not something that they ever hesitate to do again.
Yeah, it's there's something about that connection. I think especially coming out of our most recent pandemic experience, we have really come to appreciate and value connection. But I think the difficulty, and to some degree, I guess to some extent, privilege of making choices that don't directly impact us economically. I mean, not everybody can spend $5 on a loaf of bread when you can get a $2, is it $2 anymore? A $2 loaf in at the big box store. But here's something that most of us don't realize: what we're saving the money on at the big box turns into bread that never spoils, although you leave it on your counter.
Yeah.
And what are we actually saving when we do that? We're getting more junk put in our bodies that we don't need. So are we saving? There's something to be said for consciously choosing where to spend the dollars. And I heard you mention the cultural impact. You said cultures are preserved. Tell me more about that, because I love me some ethnic food groups, let me tell you, and you don't get those in the stores. Tell me a little bit more about the cultural impact of shopping and creating connection.
This is another deep dive that I've done, especially food is such a maintainer of culture. It holds our legacy and our heritage. And part of shopping, like you mentioned, bread, the convenience of a bread that doesn't mold and doesn't go bad is really high. You don't have to worry about, I get my bread from the local deli, and within a day it started to go stale. I have to think of what else to do with it, or if I'm going to throw it in the freezer. But part of shopping this way is that our consumer choices and activities aren't separate from connection and culture. They're actually ingrained in it. If you're going down to the local store every Tuesday, you're starting to create a sense of connection. You know when their stuff is fresh or when they get their deliveries in. This becomes part of the culture. If you're looking for specific ingredients because you have a specific dish that you make, that your family makes, that comes from your heritage, you can request it, and then you can connect with other people who around you share that heritage potentially. When you go down to the farmers market on Sunday, it becomes a third space and a meeting space for the community. If, especially with food, when we veer into convenience, it means we're probably not spending time in the kitchen cooking together. A lot of the times we're not sitting down at the table to talk and to eat together because it's all about quick and easy. And consumer choices are actually meant to be ingrained into culture. It's part of what makes a culture unique is the things we wear and the things we eat and the places we shop. But when we make it all franchise and big box stores, we're losing that both in the micro and the macro. Individual communities, if you can go into one city and you find all the same stores, there's no culture there. People with, when we have ethnic backgrounds, we have a really incredible European micro community here, and it's a really amazing opportunity for them to connect with each other and to stay connected to their heritage. It's such a huge component. Consumerism is supposed to be ingrained in culture, and we've removed it and made it like big box store, shallow, generic instead.
Yeah. And the conversations don't happen. So outside of just the exchange of goods, our conversations allow us to share different things about who we are, about the things that have, informed who we've become and how we have grown. I have this at the farmers market. One of the stalls there is this lovely mother and daughter who create African wear. So they use African wax
Oh,
cloth
no.
and they make those beautiful dresses and skirts. What I love most about walking by them, one, their stuff is really, really well made and very inexpensive. But what I love most about stopping by there is just talking to them, just kind of immersing myself into how they're doing and what's working, what's not. You hear inevitably a story comes up about their experience from either back home or something unique that has taken place. You don't have that when you're doing box stores. You're just the next person in the line. And I really appreciate the opportunities for conversation. How do you see communication, even communication skills, benefiting from this local shopping experience?
It's I love to say business is not B2B or B2C, it's P2P. It's person to person. And these smaller micro type of businesses, they become such an incredible embodiment of the person. They're not selling a product or service, they're selling something of themselves.
Mhm.
And that I like to, again, the merging of the history background with the micro businesses, it's like a return to the craftsman economy where we're part of our community and we're taking something that we love and we're passionate about and we're sharing it. And these moments of transaction becomes moments of connection and
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
It's naturally built in when you are a shopper of a small business and you have to go out and shop 2 to 3 times a week. You're going to have those touch points 2 to 3 times every single week. And
Wow.
psychologically, it's reoccurring exposure to each other and reoccurring conversations that create connection. So it doesn't usually happen in a once off. That starts to create networks and social ties and exchange. So when people are able to create micro businesses that they're bringing something unique, it doesn't have to have mass market appeal. They don't have to have huge startup funds. We can see expressions of all these beautiful individual backgrounds and cultures, and we get to share them with each other and exchange them rather than having to be generic again.
Yeah, and boring.
It's so boring.
You know what? If everything looks like everything else, there isn't much choice and there isn't variety. Where's the competition? We're just they're just all kind of fading into the background. But let's take it to the other side now. So we've talked about how we can use our dollars and shop or use our dollars and exchange that for goods at those local businesses. Let's look at it from the other side. Talk to me about the impact of local shopping for the business owner?
This is amazing. I have been in this scene for about 2 decades now. I started when I went to culinary school and I went on the 100-mile food diet. I was like, I'm an all-in kind of girl, so I was all in.
Oh my goodness.
And I have been closely watching the sentiment around shopping local because with my work in the culinary world and then working in marketing, I could see there's so many incredible products and services available that are locally made or Canadian made, and the quality, because someone's name is behind it and they're pouring into it with passion. The quality is unmatched. It's such a good investment. There's no intentionally built in wear and tear, so you have to buy a new one. They're just such incredible opportunities to invest in high quality products and services. But the community sentiment is not always there because we're inundated with mass marketing telling us convenience and status and posturing, and this is what you're supposed to want, and all of this. So I've always been thrilled with the power that we actually have as consumers to vote with our dollar. Big businesses are only going to keep afloat if we keep buying from them. And as someone who's a little bit of a rebel by nature, recognizing that the sentiment of consumers had so much sway that we don't really appreciate. It's been really interesting to see over the last little while everyone's really focused on shopping Canadian. I saw a lady who owns a business in Northern Ontario. It's a eco-friendly household goods. And she put a post up saying how with such a emphasis on shopping Canadian, her business has 3x'd in the last 2 months. She's been able to hire new team members. The impact, and that's only been a couple of months. Like the power we have as consumers to pour into micro businesses and small local businesses, and then the way that they support our economy, we have so much more power than we realize just about where we decide to buy our bread. We are not at the mercy of anybody but our purchasing decisions.
Wow. You know what? There's I think again, the feeling of helplessness that we feel in tapping into, big box and whatever is most readily available, I think even that is fed to us. So we kind of have to be deliberate to say, okay, and to be honest, our current economic situation, that is a trigger. That seems to be the impetus behind more of us thinking and saying and choosing, I'm going to buy local. And buying local will improve our experiences. It will also improve the life of that business owner. Talk about the jobs that we are holding in place, not just for the owner, but what's that ripple effect looking like for employment and keeping families with food on the table?
Well, businesses in Canada, I think it's somewhere in the 80% that of employees that they're facilitating.
Wow.
It's such a huge part of our GDP. It's absolutely mind-blowing.
So hang on there. Let me see if I get this right. The big box stores have huge payrolls and lots of employees in one kind of company. But you're saying that small local businesses account for 80% of the employment in Canada? Did I get that right?
Yep, I can't remember the exact number. It's somewhere in the 80s because there's so many of us.
Wow.
And we're so focused on big box stores are focused on optimization of stuff. They will automate, as we've seen.
Yes.
You know what I don't see very many of? Self-checkouts in a local store. I don't see
Never.
that. I see a cashier that I get to talk to every day. The small business owners that I know, they're such incredible employers. They are so focused on giving to their community and respecting and honoring the people that they have come in to be their staff. It not only do they have such a high percentage, I would love to see the data on the quality of employment they offer, because I know their focus is on giving back as much as they get. It's just such a natural reciprocal relationship that they build. And there's so many small businesses in Canada. We have such an incredible environment for entrepreneurship. They're popping up constantly. It's just such a dominant part of our country that when we get to support them, the ripple effects into those who are employed by them and the contributions they make to the economy. They're the ones who are going to do the fundraising. They're going to offer gifts and prizes for local fundraisings. They're super, super involved. And I wish I could remember the exact stat. The impact they have in the local economy is just huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the impact goes without saying to some degree, because I think when we look at it as one store and you see 5 employees or 3 employees, you think, well, that's just 3 employees. But when you multiply that across the, oh my gosh, the sheer number of entrepreneurs out there bringing great things to the market, we kind of we you can't help but add it all up together to see your impact when you spend and support that business. Now, here's the thing: I'm supporting the business, and still we see many local businesses going under. How do we help? Because it's one person making a decision to shop, but that business needs more than just 1 or 2 customers. The work that you do is really instrumental in helping these local business owners not just get by, but thrive. So tell me a little bit about how your work intersects with the success of local business.
So I started off as a local consumer, love local food. And when I moved out of that world and I wanted to move back into the workplace after I was at home with my kids for 10 years, I still wanted to be part of this movement to local consumerism. And having been working with the farms and the CSAs and the restaurants, I could see the gap they were missing was marketing. And
Mm.
after looking into it now for the last couple of years, it's like 56% of Canadian small businesses don't survive after the first 5 years. And one of the dominant reasons is a lack of market fit. They don't know how to market. They don't know how to get the word out. Most of us who go into business, it's small business ownership. We have something we do well, something we're really good at. We're a technician. And all of the other hats we have to put on suddenly to become a viable business can be very overwhelming. And marketing is one of those key pieces that the mass marketing out there it's pushing against the narrative of shopping local. It's convenient based, it's lowest price point based, it's exactly the opposite of the positioning local independent and small business owners have to take. So I decided if they could use marketing to push our culture to shop and dine generically, I was going to use marketing to invite those people who are interested to understand the value behind shopping local and dining local. And I first was doing it for people, and I quickly recognized because of the nature of small business ownership, you have to wear those hats yourself. Very difficult to build it to a point where you can outsource your support. So now I focus on teaching marketing skills, and it's become a really beautiful return back to my culinary school days because I'm seeing it like a trade school. I'm teaching the theory, but then I'm teaching how do we apply this? And then I'm helping refine the process of actually working in the kitchen and building your marketing and doing it. And it's equipping the small business owners with these marketing skills that are making all the difference. It's the key reason why they fail in the first 5 years. And once they have that skill set, they can then leverage it to bring their incredible products and services to more people and to fill that pipeline and get that cash flow that they need to be still in business after 5 years.
Yeah, no kidding. But here's my question. The big box guys have $1 million marketing budgets, Cheyanne.
They can keep
so
it. We don't need it.
so the mom and pop pizza place. By the way, I have to throw this in there. There was this wonderful mom and pop pizza place when I think we were in Canada maybe 3 or 4 years. It was the only one of its kind, and Lord knows it was responsible for probably a full inch of fat on my hips all by itself. It was so good. But having said that, I've never had that experience before. I've gone back to that neighborhood a few years ago. The store's gone. Now, I don't know if they moved back to the home country or if they aged out of the business, but my heart kind of breaks that
Yeah.
that wonderful experience that I had so long ago, it's no longer there for others to have. So how does that store, which is literally it literally exists in that square footage. How does that store get a marketing budget?
So first, do you see how that's a beautiful moment of culture of that city? People who've had that opportunity. I'm like, oh, do you miss them? They were so good. That's a shared experience, right? That's culture. It's such a beautiful example of how these things feed into each other. And in terms of budget, we don't need scale. Scale is their game. We have quality over quantity. Most people, there is a huge portion of our market that is looking for quality products, return on investment, actual value for their dollar, things that they can feel good about eating or feel good about bringing into their home. And that's even before you get to supporting local and feeling like you're really supporting your community's economy. When we stop trying to compete on the positioning the big box stores have, which is scale and budget, they can't buy what we have. They can't buy authenticity. Most of them can't buy quality because they're in a scale game. We
Right.
don't want to fight against them. We actually want to be leveraging the fact that we are not them. We don't need to be really pushing out advertisements. I have some really, really incredible examples of what happens when a small business needs visibility. You will find that the community will pick it up and they will create the visibility for free. I have seen so many posts go out where I had a local bakery. They were dealing with a lot of problems with their piping and it was freezing and like they couldn't even operate. So I put out a post just being like, okay, they need our help. Here's how we can support. It got shared, I think, 50 or 60 times
Wow.
without paying a dollar because you can't buy wanting the community to share your message. That comes from being local, and that's what we want to leverage. We don't need to reach across the nation. We
Right.
want to tap into the community of people who believe in us and support us, and they will organically help us spread the word. We don't need the budget.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I'm here thinking I'm a service business. I operate I guess I'm not in the competition thing, but my big box competitors would be kind of some of the retail banks that offer products without service. And maybe some of the large scale investment houses that just take your money and give you no time, no hand holding. This would work for the service provider who is local as well as the goods provider. How does that work? How do you still have, the person who operates without a shingle out, a physical shingle hanging out front? How does that translate to staying local, staying authentic, and creating that impact?
So that's me too. This is you'll like this because this is number based. When we talk about profit margins, when we are small scale, by the nature of our business, our profit margin has to be larger, which means we are not looking for scale. The big box stores and anybody who's in like a nationwide, they're looking to have a small profit margin, but a lot. They're looking for huge scale. That's how they make up the money, the revenue they need to make up. With us, you can be local geographically, but you can also be local within your network, your industry. This is where online is brilliant for us small service providers because while we might not necessarily want to earmark ourselves just to geographic location, we can find the pockets of our psychographic communities. I have been online since the 90s. I am a computer kid. I absolutely find it genius that when the world turned online, we ended up with communities of people who are value aligned or interest aligned. So instead of trying to look at your local community, you can go find the pockets of people and the communities where your type of people are hanging out online and you network within that. You get yourself known. It's all about relationships. And this is another piece that the big box stores cannot replicate. They are not real people. They cannot go in and have real conversations and create real connections. And business is all about relationships. This is another advantage we have. If you're a service provider and you're small scale, find your pockets of people and go in and genuinely become part of those communities. And that's how you end up building business relationships and strategic partnerships that allow you to grow your business and support the pipeline and the revenue that you need to have.
Yeah, that is so impactful because I think the tendency is we're thinking local business and we limit it to geographic. In fact, a lot of your marketing strategies are being implemented not in local papers so much, and I'm sure there's some of that as well because you're a marketer. But I see the implementation of marketing on platforms that exist by nature outside of the geographic local. So a lot of your marketing is taking place on social media platforms, but you're keeping it local.
So this was another gap that I identified coming from being I in the early 90s, I was online with my friend creating a Yahoo drag and drop social Sailor Moon website. I have always been fascinated with this ability to connect with online content.
Yeah.
So my background in marketing is actually I specialized in digital marketing. And what I recognized was the convenience and the accessibility and the way online media and online marketing has low barriers. It was the perfect fit for small businesses. There was such a great opportunity for us to lean into something as easy as organic social or a Google My Business. So I've taken traditional local marketing and I've given it the digital spin so that we can tap into the technology and the ease of it and the wide distribution of it instead of just being limited to what's considered traditional local marketing. And this helps us tap into the more savvy consumer base who is online. And it's become a really beautiful advantage because when you have the distribution and the ease of digital and the positioning of authenticity and genuine connection of being locally based or a real person, I've had so many people who are taking Amy Porterfield courses or something like that. And then they get into a conversation with me and they're like, whoa, you're the perfect fit because you're real, you're authentic, you're in Ontario, but you're talking about all of these things and you can help me really apply it instead of being in a cohort of 2,000 people. I'm going to be able to have an actual conversation with you. So it's actually a really beautiful opportunity to take almost like a T skill and bring in the digital and the local and the authentic, and you build them together and it creates a really strong marketing system.
Yeah, I totally get that because in my mind you're saying this and I'm thinking because well, I'm going to give this analogy. I say to clients, even if the bank says you can afford a $600,000 mortgage, doesn't mean you need to take all $600,000 worth of borrowing. So, in much the same way, I'm thinking, yes, you have social media and the world is literally your oyster, but you don't need to reach out to the world to have an authentic profitable business. In your marketing, I really appreciate what you're sharing because it kind of forces or it invites the business owner to focus in on the things that are real differentiators. Like, how many pizza stores? Like, I'll ask you, how many pizza places are, let's say, in your community right now?
We have so many pizza and burrito places for some strange reason.
Yes, it's quite a mix. And yet, each one stands out somehow. There is a unique differentiator. I was in Ottawa with my daughter last year, and we went to this. I think they only have two stores in the Ottawa area, and I haven't found them anywhere else. Shout out to Pizza Nerds. I got the best pizza ever. Lord have mercy. It only comes in one size, an individual size. They don't make any other size pizza. And it was mushrooms and truffle oil and oh my gosh, and this and that and the other. Very simple, really delicious. And I went in, we had great service. I took it home and I went again. Listen, that was the most expensive pizza I've ever bought, hands down. And I bought it again, Cheyanne. That was an experience in my mind. And just like that pizza place that I told you about all those years ago, here's Pizza Nerds now creating a new node, a new center point to that I might be talking about years from now because of that one experience. Nice service. I mean, nothing fancy. It was pretty straightforward, but a construction with the food that I've never had before. It was quite amazing. So I like that the pressure's kind of off for local businesses. We don't have to try to compete. against the big box people. We
We
just
shouldn't.
need to bring our authenticity, the wonderful skills and gifts and talents that we have brought to our business, and kind of just offer it to the world, our little world, our community, or whoever needs our service. Don't be afraid to niche down. Would you say that that's accurate?
So one of the concepts we really want to understand, especially with marketing, it's about understanding the market. If you're looking at a global market and you're like, oh, I can sell to anybody anywhere, which happens a lot, you're talking also a huge amount of other people offering similar types of services. And then it becomes a game of visibility. How do you get in front of people who are also looking at a huge global market? When we're developing a business, we want to really be realistic about, well, how many clients or customers do I need? It's not going to be in the hundreds of thousands. So why would we compete on a global scale if that's not in attunement with the scale of clients or customers we need? Instead, we want to really, our visibility, we want to pour that only into a market that we want to serve. And it's not about, like you're saying, it's not about if there's other options in there. It's do I genuinely feel like I can move in and create visibility in this market and I can genuinely offer value to them through my services? We all know that just because some people like my kids will only eat cheese pizza. I don't understand it. I'm like, there's so many beautiful toppings.
As
Please.
your mom is a trained culinary expert.
You're really good with a lot of other stuff, but for some weird reason, pizza is only cheese. I'm like, can we try some feta? Can we? But some people, that's what they want from their pizza. Some people want truffle oil. So you can be, if you find a pocket of community that you're like, I feel like these are my people, these are people I would be very fulfilled to serve, you can bring your unique version of whatever it is you're offering. And because as small service providers or small businesses, we only need like less than 100, something very modest. So when we talk market share. The goal of marketing is always to claim market share. Like we mentioned earlier, people's buying habits are very habitual. It takes a psychological trigger to change significant buying habits. When you have a baby is one of them. When you're facing in crazy economic situations is another one.
Mm-hmm.
When we get a market share, which means of this whole, we'll call it a pizza pie, we have a specific portion that we're part of their habit, we're their go-to. That's the goal of marketing, is to create a market share. If you're talking a huge global market, getting any visibility in that and any traction in that, it's hard to even get a sliver. When
Yeah.
you shrink it down and you find a community that you can create visibility in because you're showing up as a real person and you don't have to have $10 million for ad spend, you will get a market share in that that will give you enough of the leads and the customers that you need. All of my businesses here, I'm in Trenton, they don't need tens of thousands of customers. We have a population of 50 to 60K, I believe, somewhere around there. They only need a pretty modest market share to be sustainable as a business. And they're not, we don't tend either to be super hungry for constant scaling and constant growth. So we're not like a monster that has to keep being fed. We're much better served to grow our business in a way that feels fulfilling and not going to burn us out by finding a community or a market that we're genuinely interested in a reciprocal relation from. We're not going to go in there just trying to take and be transactional, because we will then have to hop over and over because eventually people will get sick of us. We want to find the markets and the communities we want to exchange with, and then we establish our market share. That's all we need to do.
Yeah, I love the analogy or the use of the word exchange,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, every transaction is an exchange of value. And we don't bother too much about price when our values are aligned, when the thing that you value is part of the exchange. So you will spend a little more than the big box store if it means the ingredients align with your values. You'll spend a little more on, that loaf of bread if you value what that small business is doing in the community. There, you're looking for these points of alignment. And when the business can successfully share those values and share clearly with consumers that you have this as an option, then we have an ease of exchange and having all of that good stuff happening in our community in ways where we're back to the beginning. Win-win.
Exactly. It's relation. It's not supposed to be a one way. This type of business, you're embedded in your community.
Yeah.
You're part of a beautiful fabric that's woven together, and everybody is strengthening everybody else. It's not supposed to be a one-way exchange. It's not supposed to be purely transactional.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love that you took the time with all your experience. I mean, you went from French cuisine. Well, no, you went from Taylor Moon.
Sailor Moon, yeah, Sailor Moon, then museum studies. I did some general arts and science, and then culinary.
Yes, you went through all of that. And I see the influence of all of that experience pouring into the work that you do now. And you do it so well, so effortlessly, and with such a giving, willing spirit that definitely shows in your marketing. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast or if you're watching it and you haven't yet interacted with Cheyanne's content, with her brand, with the work that she does, you will go and see, because it really taps into and exemplifies the authenticity that we're looking for when we're exploring and sharing and going through life, just doing our thing. So Cheyanne, all of that good stuff has brought you to who you are here today, and you're pouring it into all of us. I really thank you for that. If you had a quick something that you would want to leave us with, whether it is the consumer or the business owner or the one who's just trying to figure out, how do I get people through the door, what would that be?
My word is always empowerment. It's very easy to look around at circumstances and to feel like you don't have choices. As business owners, empower yourself with business and entrepreneurial skills. The game is not that hard. There's a lot of people out there trying to make a lot of money out of telling you it's complex. It is an age-old game. There are fundamentals. Empower yourself with them. And as a consumer, empower yourself with your choices. Any new choice is a habit you need to build, but once you build it, it's there. It's set it and forget it. And you have the choice to make different consumer options and to bring different things into your home. It's empowerment all around.
Empowerment, a word I really love. It scares some people, but it is vital to us living our lives full and rich and on purpose, all of that good stuff. Cheyanne, tell people where they can find you in all of the interwebs.
On Instagram and Facebook, I am CEO Marketing Consultant, and on LinkedIn, Cheyanne O'Driscoll. I really like connecting with professionals on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and with all this local emphasis, you want to give them your street address? I'm kidding.
No, maybe not.
Totally kidding. I'm kidding. Definitely reach out to Cheyanne, talk to her, book some time with her. If nothing else, tap into her content. There's something there for all of us to learn. And like she said, it's either win or learn. And she's provided us with material to do both today. So Cheyanne, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate having you.
Thank you for having me. This has been really great. I know it'd be a great conversation.
Awesome. And thanks to you for being part of our episode today. I will be seeing you next time for another episode of Catalyst Conversations, where we're sparking change in women's wealth. Toodles. Thank you for joining me today on Catalyst Conversations. I hope this episode sparked something powerful to help on your journey to building wealth confidently and unapologetically. If you loved today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if something resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep moving toward your goals, stay empowered, and continue sparking change on your wealth journey. This is Hadriana, and you've been listening to Catalyst Conversations.